good day. Welcome to Music Motors. Welcome to something a little different. This is the 2020 Honda Jazz. Now actually, this is a Honda Jazz Crosstar. This is a EX Crosstar. Now this car is about £23,500 on the road as you see it. It's powered by a 1.5 litre petrol engine and it's a HEV, it's a mild hybrid. So at the petrol engine, that means 97 PS and 131 Newton meters of torque. Out the electric motor, you're looking at 109 PS and 253 Newton meters of torque. All of this culminating in a 0 to 62 time of 9.9 seconds, topping out at 107, whilst being able to return anywhere between 45 and 70 miles to the gallon, depending on your driving cycle. Now, base prices on the Jazz start at around £19,000, I think they're 18,900. So in this episode of Music Motors, I'm going to put to the test the all-new Honda Jazz, seeing what's changed, what's better, and are Honda finally breaking that stereotype that we all have every time a Jazz pulls out in front of us. Outside, it is without question that it's a Honda design, but that does not necessarily mean it's a good design, sadly. The Jazz over the years has had a few different facelifts, a few different adaptations, and generally, you know, it's an alright looking car, but this is quite bold. And for me, especially as a Crosstar, a little weird looking. Over the course of the week though, this car has definitely grown on me. That goes without saying. Whilst it is by no means an attractive car, the quirks grow on you. The front end's rounded and friendly and very Jazz. A side profile, typically Honda in their small car segment, and with strange front windows that kind of give a van-esque appearance to the front, but at the same point, quirky, different. The back end, not pretty, but not totally ugly. Really aesthetically, it's a bit of a weird one, because the first time I saw it, I really didn't like it, but over the course of the week, it really did start to grow on me, and I'm sure as we see more of them around, it won't seem as different to us as it does right now. And it is by no means saying it's a badly designed car aesthetically. I mean, on the outside, the 16-inch alloys are a really nice design. Now this one actually rides 30mm higher than a standard Jazz because it is a Crosstar, EX Crosstar. And aesthetically, it's got some extra bits and pieces to give that kind of overland crossover kind of design. But even the standard Jazz for me is a little bit of a weird one. If I was going to have one, the EX Crosstar is pretty much the only one, because it's got so many optional extras inside and out that you can forgive it for the slightly questionable looks, but that's it. Just for me, aesthetically, I'm just not the biggest fan. The Motorway, somewhere you may not traditionally think that a Jazz would fit in, but somewhere I'm going to test, because I need to know what's the economy like, what is the drive like, what is the comfort like when you get up to motorway speeds for a reasonable amount of time. So I'll see you at the other end with a summary. Some 20 odd miles later of mainly motorway, and I just realised I need to go to the shop, so that's why there's a tiny bit of town. 62.9 miles to the gallon, which is just ridiculous. Realistically, this should feel quite underpowered on the motorway, and it doesn't. When you need to zip out, it's actually got enough power to get up and go. It fluctuates between the engine being on and full EV mode and supported EV mode seamlessly. You don't feel a thing. The visibility is good, it's comfortable, it's quiet, the sound system's good. The adaptive cruise is actually not annoying and cutting in all the time. You've got lane control to guide you and make sure you're in the middle. And for those who like to break the law, you can take your hand off the steering wheel and it will put itself around corners. Really quite impressed, because this is a city car and it shouldn't be anywhere near as good as it just showed me it is on the motorway. It's totally out of its comfort zone, but yet totally within its ability. Inside though, Honda have done something truly fantastic. I mean, Honda always make good quality interiors, but finally a lot of stuff's been updated. The first thing I'm going to say is the infotainment is now absolutely amazing. And if you go for an EX Crosstar, you also get a 380 watt interior sound system, which is just absolutely phenomenally good. The infotainment itself has been updated. It has wireless Apple CarPlay. It's really easy to navigate. It's got DAB, it's got inbuilt navigation. Finally, Honda got the memo and they went, cool, let's update it, it's about time. From the driver's seat, new steering wheel, nice TFT display in front of you, easy to navigate buttons, everything's at your fingertips. You want to put it into regen braking, it's as easy as pulling a lever. And the seats are really, really comfortable. Noting that you also have heated seats, you have USB sockets everywhere. Honda have really kind of adapted to the times in that they're saying this could be a really good family car because, well, it could be ISOFIX in the back, the USB sockets to keep kids entertained, because all kids use iPads these days, a reasonably good amount of headroom in the front and the back, a reasonably good boot space, and it very quickly shows itself that it's a very capable interior car. It doesn't feel as small as the exterior would lead you to believe. It's quiet. It deals with potholes pretty well from a passenger point of view because, well, sometimes you just cannot avoid them. And on long journeys, it doesn't feel draining. My only criticism really in the interior is this seat. This headrest is a little bit awkward in that if you have it any higher up than this, it ends up pushing your head forward. But the seats are otherwise very comfortable. It's a shame that it's a lever operation and not a rotation operation. But aside from that, the interior is really, really nice. Very well built. Lots of plastics, which you would expect for the price. I mean, it goes without saying, you're not going to find an abundance of leather. And if you go for the EX Crosstar, these are also water-resistant fabric seats. It's pretty impressive as an interior goes. Loads of technology, everything at your fingertips. And you really, really, honestly couldn't ask for more from a little car. I'm surprised it doesn't have an auto-dim rear-view mirror and auto-dimming wing mirrors. I know it put the price up a little bit, but considering the amount of technology that's in here already, I'm kind of surprised they didn't go that extra step, because with everything there is, and as capable as this is, with all the cubby holes that go everywhere, it just feels like they sort of missed a trick with that, only ever so slightly. Now, performance, and yeah, you don't put a Honda Jazz and performance together normally, but so 97 PS, 131 Newton meters out of the 1.5 litre petrol engine. If you go to the electric engine, you then have 109 PS and 253 Newton meters of torque. More than enough. I mean, whilst it doesn't propel this to 62 in a massively fast time, 9.9 seconds for the EX Crosstar, it's slightly lower. I think it's 9.6, 9.7 in a standard Jazz HEV. It still tops out 107 mile an hour, and around town has more than enough pep to get out. On the motorway, doesn't struggle if you need to blip out to get around someone because potentially another Jazz is in front of you doing 56 miles an hour. Hey, you know, it's a stereotype, but we've all seen it. Funnily enough, I didn't expect this to drive even half as well as this actually does, because it's a very smooth ride. The throttle response is pretty good. The brakes are really good, like really lovely feel, really impressive feel. The steering is lovely and smooth, and the gearbox, automatic transmission when needed. It fluctuates between being in EV and sort of assisted EV mode with the engine and recharging absolutely seamlessly. You don't notice a thing. The only time that you notice anything's going on is when you've got adaptive cruise, because the adaptive cruise can be a little bit forward thinking. It will see something as a hazard before perhaps it is and start reacting slightly too early, but aren't all auto systems a little bit like that? Around town, as you're about to see, the economy is just ridiculous. So watch this thing. Now that was the best part of 30 miles of driving. It was all back roads and I didn't think it needed its own segment. It was just kind of proving a point. Yeah, around town you can get 40, but that drive I got 75 miles to the gallon. 75 miles to the gallon out of a Jazz, a city car that can so easily do that. And on the motorway, well, it's equally ridiculously good. I mean, you're always going to see probably high 50s, early 60s on the motorway without question. When you're on the motorway, it doesn't feel small. It fits in. It's quiet. It's comfortable. Around town, the visibility is really good. The lock is fantastic. And when you do need those city aids, because perhaps someone's just cut out in front of you for no particular reason, it's just what happens when people see a Jazz coming, they don't want to let it get in front of them. Again, stereotype, I just thought I'd throw a few into this. The brakes and the auto sensing system is really good. From a performance point of view, I was kind of amazed. By no means is this a totally engaged and thrilling drive, but by no means is it a totally disconnected and crap drive. It's really surprising just how good this is at being kind of everything from a driving point of view. So whilst the Jazz aesthetically perhaps isn't quite where I would like it to be, maybe it is where you'd like it to be, but for me, it's not. Well, I'm not quite there yet. But the interior, built really well, filled with technology, comfortable, and doesn't feel cramped like a small city car normally does. And the performance and economy, yeah, the performance isn't mind-melting, but it's by no means rubbish. And the economy, that is mind-melting. It's obscenely good at economy. The figures that this turns around is fantastic, and from that drive point of view, quite surprising. Not what you expect from a little city car. The drive really is fantastic, and whilst you can't throw it around back roads like a Fiesta ST, it was never made to be able to do that. So the fact that it can actually still give you a fun driving experience means that Honda have pretty much nailed this car. Yeah, the aesthetics aren't for me, but they've grown on me, I've adjusted to them, and we probably all will, and then we'll like it, and it will be a cute little city car again.